Hello, welcome back everyone. MPLS VPN walkthrough tutorials 4. In this tutorial, we're going to configure our PE routers to become a neighbor with our CE so that the routes advertised from the CE routers will receive them from PE. Okay, if we take a look at this in this YG and MDY, we have the IP address of 172.16.15 LAN address here and 172.16.15 here. Let's say if these two routes comes into here, the IP address is going to be overlapped and there will be IP address conflict. So here we have the concept of VRF, and if everyone should be familiar with the VRF before studying the MPLS VPN tutorials. So in this router 8, which is our provider router PE5, we have the global routing table here. This is a global routing table, and if we put the show IP route VRF star, this is a global routing table. That's the only routing table that we have right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create the VRF for YGN, MDY VRF, SG1, SG2, SFO VRF, NYC VRF, JPN VRF, and London VRF. And then after that, I'm going to put in all these interfaces into the VRF. And then we're going to configure the neighbor with this PE and the CE. Let's say here in this example is EIGRP, here is OSPF, so that this neighbor EIGRP will become established between the PE-CE, OSPF will establish between the PE-CE, and this router will receive this routes advertised by the CE. Okay, so let's move on to here. The first step is configuring the VRF. It's on the router 4 here. We have the two VRF. So we just put in the IP VRF SG1 and IP VRF SG2. So after that, I need to put in the necessary interfaces into the respective VRF. Here we have the first Ethernet 0/0 is in the SG1 VRF, and the first Ethernet 1/0 is in the SG2 VRF. So when we verify the first Ethernet 0/0, configuration becomes like this, and we're gonna configure the first Ethernet 0/0 will be put into the SG1. So IP VRF forwarding SG1. When we put in the interface into the VRF, the IP address is removed, and then we have to configure the IP address back. Alright, and then first Ethernet 1/0, IP VRF forwarding SG2. So IP address is removed, and we're going to put it back the IP address. And then we can verify show IP VRF. Then we will have the SG1 and 2 VRF, and the respective IP interfaces are in the their respective VRF. So let's move on to the router 5. Router 5 going to be having two VRF, SFO and NYC. IP VRF, SFO, IP VRF, NYC. One thing to take note is the VRF names are case sensitive. So SFO capital and SFO small letters are different. So here I use all capital letters. So first Ethernet 0/0 is going to be IP VRF forwarding will be the SFO. And first Ethernet 1/0 gonna be NYC. After we verify, here we go. And let's move on to the router 6. Router 6 will have only one VRF, which is JPN, IPVRF JPN, and then we're going to put in IPVRF forwarding JPN. And the IP address we have to put it back 192.168.63.1 255.252. And then router 7 going to be IPVRF London, alright. So after that, on the router 8, which is P5, we have a 2 VRF, YGN, and the MDY. First Ethernet 0/0 is going to be in the YGN. So IPVRF forwarding YGN, and first Ethernet 1/0 going to be in the MDY VRF. Okay, so now we can see the respective VRF are created in the in this P router, and the interfaces are in the respective VRF. So now we can verify show IP route VRF star. We're going to be seeing the this is a global routing table here, and we will have the routing table for the YGN, and also we were going to be having for the MDY as well. So this is for the MDY. We can see the 192.168.86.0/30, which is in the MDY. 85 is going to be in the YGN. And we can verify on the here as well. So IP route VRF SG1 here, and SG2. We can verify on the router 5 will be SF4 and NYC. And we can verify JPN. And we can verify LON. Alright, so now we have done the VRF configuration and then put the necessary interfaces into the VRF. Now we need to configure the routing protocols. Example here, we have the router for PE and CE will be running the BGP. So this guy is already, this interface is already in the VRF, so we need to configure the BGP to neighbor with this guy SG1 so that this LAN network will be received by this P routers. Same things here. So how to configure the BGP to neighbor with the router 9? So I have prepared the config. So to configure the BGP, we have to go into the first. In this router 4 is already in the router BGP 85. So we go to the here, and then we're going to be configuring address family IPv4 VRF SG1, and we will be neighboring with 192.168.49.02, which is 192.168.49.02, this guy, and which is 65444, and activate. That's it. So before we configure this one, and I will verify VRF SG1. This is before I configure the BGP between the router 4 and 9. So now I'm going to configure this one. And then we're going to move on to the SG2 here. So we're going to be configuring 65445. So I'm just putting 65445 here. The first, I need to go into the BGP 85 and that one. So when we verify the show IP route VRF SG1, we will receive SG1. This SG1 LAN is 192.168.172.16.9.0 as BGP routes. And from here, show IP route VRF SG2. Let me verify again. Let me verify on the C, which is on the route 10. One two 168.41.2. Okay. Six five four four five. Maybe it's up. Ten. Oh, sorry. It's supposed to be 65445. This one will be 172.16.10.10. Okay, so here. So when we verify show a bit of VRF SG1 and SG2. All right. After that, we're gonna move on to router 5. We'll be running the RIP version 2, and here is the EIGRP. So to configure the RIP version 2, here is the configuration. So before we configure the RIP, we verify the show IP route VRF SFO. We only have to connect it, and we just put in this to neighbor with this one. We will just configure this interface into the RIP. To neighbor with this guy, we just put this interface into the EIGRP. So router RIP address family IPv4 VRF SFO network 192.168.51.0, which is this guy, and then we need to configure the no auto summary, and we have to say version 2, which is for the RIP. So this is before, and then after that we configure the RIP. For EIGRP, we'll be running with New York we'll be running EIGRP, yes, number 12. So we have to say router EIGRP1, address family IPv4 VRF NYC, and then this interface we're going to enable, no auto summary, and we have to put the autonomous system number 12 here. So then configuration is here. So let's put it here. So we can see for the New York we have 172.16.11.0, and here we have 172.16.11.0. Even though IP address is the same, so there will be no IP conflict because we have separated the routing table by using the VRF. So here we will know 172.16.11.0 as EIGRP because router 5 is neighbor with NYC using EIGRP, and SFO we will know 172.16.11 as RIP. Let's move on to the router 6 where we configure the default route. So I need to configure the show IP route. VRF here we need to configure the VRF static route. So IP route VRF GPN, and I want to reach from here router 6 to this segment. So behind the Japan LAN segment is 172.16.13.0, 255.255.255.0, and 192.168.63. It's gonna be 2. Yes, and after that, when we do the show IP route VRF JPN, I will see the static route. Okay, let's move on to the router 7. We'll be configuring the BGP. So usual router BGP 85. So address family IPv4 VRF, IPv4 VRF London. So IP route VRF LON. So router 14, let's verify on the router 14, router 7 and 14 here. So router 14. Okay, BGP is up. So we can see the BGP route here. Alright, for the last one, on the router 8, show IP route VRF YGN here and MDY here. So YGN we're going to be running EIGRP and MDY will be running OSPF. So EIGRP, router EIGRP1, address family IPv4 VRF YGN, and we will put this 192.168.85, which is this segment, into the EIGRP, and autonomous system number is 15 that we use here. If this autonomous system different, the neighbors will not be up. So here we show IP route VRF YGN. We will be seeing the EIGRP route 172.16.15.0. And for the OSPF here is area 1 OSPF area ID is 16. So router OSPF VRF MDY, and then 192.168.86.0, which is this segment and the area 1. So show IP route VRF MDY. Now as we didn't see anything yet, so I put it in and show IP route VRF MDY. Okay, so now we have OSPF routes for the MDY, we receive this LAN 172.16.15 at OSPF route, and for YGN we receive the EIGRP route 172.16.15 here. Now we are receiving /32, so we forgot to do the IP OSPF network point-to-point on the router 16. Let me put it here. So that we will see /24. Here we go. And is there any OSPF? No more. Okay, so now in this tutorials we configure the VRF and we put in the necessary interface in the respective VRF, and then we configure the PE-CE routing protocols like EIGRP, OSPF here, BGP here, RIP, EIGRP, Japan, and London. So we have to take note of how configuring the VRF. The commands are a little bit different from the normal global routing protocols. Like here we have BGP config. Don't forget that we have to put in the router BGP 85 here, and the RIP is here. This is how we configure the EIGRP, and this is how we configure the steady route. And here, so before you configure this, you can verify show IP route VRF, MDY. Sorry, here we have SE12, SE1, SE2. You configure before you verify the routing tables, and then you configure the routing protocols, and then you verify and you can test it. Alright, so I'm gonna stop here in this tutorial 4, and we will move on to the next tutorial 5. Thank you very much, and see you in the next tutorial.